The observation deck of the Harmony station hung suspended between worlds, its transparent walls offering unobstructed views of both Earth's blue sphere and the crystalline vessels of the Viridian delegation. Ambassador Maya Thorne stood alone at the viewport, her dark hair pulled back in a severe knot that belied the butterflies in her stomach. Tomorrow marked the final day of the first official peace summit between humans and the newly discovered Viridians, and despite 6 months of careful negotiation, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that something remained unresolved. You also find solitude necessary for contemplation. The melodic voice startled her. Maya turned to find Ambassador Elior observing her with those unsettling violet eyes. Standing nearly 7 feet tall with alabaster skin that seemed to catch and refract light, Elior was imposing even by Viridian standards. Yet there was something in those eyes that had always seemed familiar to Maya, something that transcended the vast evolutionary differences between their species. Ambassador Elior, I didn't expect anyone else to be here this late in the station's cycle. Please, the Viridian said, moving beside her at the viewport. After all our negotiations, surely we can dispense with formalities when alone. Maya smiled despite herself. Fair enough, Elior. They stood in companionable silence, watching as Earth rotated slowly beneath them. The peace accords had been challenging. Humans were naturally wary after discovering they weren't alone in the universe, and the Viridians remained cryptic about many aspects of their society. As primary negotiators, Maya and Elior had spent countless hours together, gradually developing a rapport that transcended diplomatic necessity. You seem troubled, Elior observed, those long fingers resting lightly on the railing. Are you concerned about tomorrow's signing? Not exactly, Maya admitted. I'm more worried about what comes after. First contact is historic, but sustained, peaceful coexistence. That's the real challenge. Elior nodded, the light playing across those high cheekbones. My people share similar concerns. We have remained isolated for millennia for reasons not entirely disclosed in these negotiations. The candid admission surprised Maya. Are you saying there's information being withheld from us? Every species has its secrets, Maya. Elior's gaze remained fixed on the stars. Even your negotiation team hasn't revealed everything about Earth's military capabilities. Maya felt heat rise to her cheeks. That's different. Is it? Elior turned, now fully facing her. We are both protecting our people while trying to build something unprecedented. Trust develops gradually. Something in the Viridian's tone made Maya step closer. What aren't you telling me, Elior? There are aspects of our biology, our history. Elior hesitated. The elders believe humans aren't ready for certain truths. The intimacy of the moment struck Maya. They stood closer than protocol would allow, sharing confidences that could derail tomorrow's historic signing. Yet in this liminal space between their worlds, diplomatic caution seemed less important than the connection that had been building between them for months. When will we be ready? Maya asked softly. That is what I find most fascinating about humans, Elior responded, reaching out to touch Maya's face with those elegant fingers. Your readiness often comes through direct experience rather than gradual preparation. The touch sent an unexpected current through Maya's body. Acting on impulse rather than reason, she rose on her tiptoes and pressed her lips against Elior's. She meant it as a brief gesture, affectionate but restrained, yet the moment their lips met, something extraordinary happened. Elior's skin began to glow from within, faint at first, then intensifying until luminescent patterns traced what appeared to be circulatory pathways beneath the alabaster surface. The Viridian gasped and stepped back, eyes wide with shock. Elior, what's happening? Maya reached out in alarm. I don't, the words cut off as Elior doubled over. The deck beneath them vibrated subtly, then with increasing intensity as the glow spread across every visible inch of the Viridian's skin. Should I call medical? Maya fumbled for her communicator, but Elior's hand shot out, gripping her wrist with unexpected strength. No, no others. The Viridian's voice had changed, resonating with harmonics that hadn't been present before. Something dormant, awakening. As suddenly as it began, the trembling stopped. Elior straightened, now radiating light so bright that Maya had to squint. The patterns beneath the skin pulsed in complex rhythms, and when their eyes met, Maya saw that Elior's violet irises now swirled with golden flecks. What did I do to you? Maya whispered, equal parts fascinated and horrified. Ilior looked down at luminescent hands with wonder. You've done something impossible, Maya Thorne, something that will change everything for my people. A smile broke across the Viridian's face, more openly emotional than any expression Maya had witnessed from their kind. The elders spoke of legends, but I never believed. Ilior's voice trailed off as the light finally began to dim, though faint patterns remained visible beneath the skin. Before Maya could question further, the station's alert system blared to life. Attention all personnel. Unexplained energy surge detected in Observation Deck 7. Security teams respond immediately. Maya met Ilior's gaze, both of them suddenly aware that whatever had just transpired between them would not remain private for long. It seems, Ilior said with newfound intensity, that tomorrow's signing may be more complicated than anticipated. Maya paced the confines of her quarters, replaying the events on the observation deck for the 100th time. 36 hours had passed since her kiss with Ilior had triggered, whatever that was. Security had arrived within minutes, and the Viridian delegation had whisked Ilior away before Maya could ask any of the questions now burning in her mind. Ambassador Thorne, her communication panel chimed. Director Holloway requests your presence in conference room 3 immediately. Maya smoothed her uniform and steeled herself. The official story, an unexplained energy fluctuation in the station's systems, hadn't fooled anyone in high command. As she entered the conference room, the sudden silence told her everything she needed to know. Director Holloway sat at the head of the table, flanked by Dr. Ramirez, the expedition's xenobiologist, and General Parker, whose perpetual scowl had only deepened. Ambassador, Holloway gestured to an empty chair. Perhaps you'd like to explain why the Viridians have suddenly requested a 3-day delay to the signing ceremony. Maya sat carefully. I haven't been briefed on any delay. They're claiming their lead ambassador has fallen ill, General Parker interjected. But our sensors detected that energy surge originating from both your biosignatures. Before Maya could respond, Dr. Ramirez placed a tablet on the table. These readings are unprecedented. Ambassador, did you and the Viridian have physical contact? The question hung in the air. Maya felt heat rise to her face but maintained her diplomatic composure. We had a brief personal interaction. I believed it to be within the bounds of cultural exchange. Cultural exchange, Parker repeated with undisguised disdain. You've potentially compromised Earth's security for what curiosity, attraction. That's enough, General, Holloway cut in. Ambassador Thorne, we need to understand exactly what happened and what it means for the negotiations. Maya opened her mouth to respond when the door slid open. A junior officer entered, looking flustered. Director, I apologize for the interruption, but the Viridian ship is requesting emergency communication. They're asking specifically for Ambassador Thorne. All eyes turned to Maya as the main screen flickered to life. Instead of the Viridian Elder Council she expected, Ilior's face filled the display. Maya barely controlled her gasp. The luminescent patterns remained visible beneath the alabaster skin, but now they shifted in complex, mesmerizing sequences. Ilior's eyes still swirled with gold, more pronounced than before. Maya, the voice carried the same harmonic quality she'd heard on the observation deck. I need to see you. Alone. Director Holloway stepped forward. Ambassador Ilior, this is Director Holloway. We're concerned about. I will speak only with Maya, Ilior interrupted, something the always diplomatic Viridian would never have done before. What has happened concerns both our peoples, but it begins with us. Maya felt the atmosphere in the room shift as everyone processed the implications of us. Ambassador Thorne is not authorized to meet privately at this time, General Parker stated firmly. Ilior's expression hardened. Then perhaps your government should know that 3 more of my kind have begun showing signs of transformation after I merely spoke to them. The genetic cascade has begun, Director. Unless you wish to see what happens when it spreads unchecked, I suggest you allow us to meet. The silence that followed was deafening. Maya found her voice first. I'll come where? The botanical garden, 1 hour. The screen went dark before anyone could object. Dr. Ramirez was already furiously taking notes. Genetic cascade? This could be some form of contagious mutation. We need to establish quarantine protocols. We need to understand what we're dealing with first, Maya countered. Let me meet with Elior. I'll wear monitoring equipment if you insist, but this may be our only chance to get ahead of whatever this is. Director Holloway studied her for a long moment. You'll wear a full suite of monitors and security will be nearby. At the first sign of danger, they'll extract you. One more thing, Maya added. I want unlimited access to the xenobiology database. If Elior's people have some dormant genetic trait being activated, I need to know everything we've learned about their physiology. 90 minutes later, Maya stood in the lush artificial environment of the station's botanical garden. The air was thick with moisture and the scent of exotic flora. Security had positioned themselves discreetly at the exits, but Maya knew they were watching every move. She sensed rather than heard Elior's approach. Turning, she found the Viridian standing among a cluster of bioluminescent plants, their glow mirroring the patterns still pulsing beneath Elior's skin. You're still illuminated, Maya observed, keeping her distance despite the inexplicable pull she felt. The process continues to evolve, Elior replied, moving closer. But I am not ill, Maya, quite the opposite. I am becoming what my ancestors once were. And what is that, exactly? Elior reached out, fingers stopping just short of touching Maya's face. Our historical records speak of a time when my people possessed abilities beyond our current evolution, energy manipulation, heightened perception, even forms of what humans might call telepathy. These traits were believed lost millennia ago. Lost or suppressed? Maya asked, thinking of the research she'd just reviewed. Elior's eyes widened. You understand more than I expected. Your DNA contains numerous dormant sequences, far more than evolutionary drift would explain. It's as if they were intentionally deactivated. The kiss, Elior whispered. Physical contact with human biochemistry somehow reactivated these sequences in me. And now, the Viridian gestured to the patterns beneath the skin. The awakening spreads to any of my kind I interact with closely. Maya stepped back, suddenly understanding the enormity of what they'd inadvertently set in motion. Your government must be terrified. Some are, Elior acknowledged. Others are curious. The elders have been in emergency council since it began, but Maya, there's something else. Elior moved closer again, voice dropping. I feel connected to you in ways I cannot explain, and the abilities emerging within me, they respond to your presence. As if to demonstrate, Elior extended a hand. The luminescent patterns brightened, and tiny motes of light began to gather in the palm, coalescing into a miniature galaxy that rotated slowly. Energy manipulation, Maya breathed, mesmerized. This is only the beginning, Elior said softly. And I believe it is happening because of us, because of what exists between us. The botanical garden's lighting suddenly shifted to emergency red. Director Holloway's voice came through the station-wide system. All personnel return to secure stations immediately. Viridian vessels approaching without authorization. This is not a drill. Maya and Elior locked eyes, both understanding immediately. Someone doesn't want this awakening to continue, Elior said grimly. Maya grabbed the Viridian's hand without thinking. Then we need to ensure it does. The moment their skin made contact, Elior's luminescence flared brilliantly, and Maya felt a strange, tingling sensation spread up her arm. For an instant, she could sense Elior's emotions as if they were her own, determination, fear, and something deeper that made her breath catch. Whatever they had started with a simple kiss had only just begun to transform them both. We can't stay on the station, Maya whispered, pulling Elior through the maintenance corridors she'd memorized during her 6 months aboard Harmony. The station's alarm systems continued to blare, masking their footsteps as they moved away from the botanical garden. Those ships aren't part of your official delegation, are they? Elior's skin pulsed with agitation, the luminescent patterns shifting to faster, more angular configurations. No, they belong to the Genetic Preservation Authority, a faction within our government that has long worked to ensure our species remains stable. You mean they actively suppress evolutionary change? Maya translated, peering around a corner before motioning Elior forward. For what they believe is the greater good. Elior's voice carried a new edge of bitterness. Our society achieved peace millennia ago by eliminating the traits that made us unpredictable, emotional, and powerful. They reached a junction where the corridor split in 3 directions. Maya hesitated, then pulled Elior toward the rightmost path. The xenobiology files mentioned something about your people's history, a conflict that nearly destroyed your civilization before you achieved space travel. The Sundering, Ilior confirmed. Our historical archives describe it as a civil war between factions with different visions for our future. But now I wonder if it was something else entirely, perhaps those with activated abilities against those who feared them. They reached a small hangar bay housing research shuttles. Maya quickly entered her override codes into the nearest vessel's access panel. These are designed for extended survey missions. If we can reach the Jupiter outpost, I have contacts who might help us. Maya, Ilior caught her arm, the touch sending another wave of that strange connection between them. You're risking everything, your career, possibly your life. You don't have to do this. She met the Viridian's gaze, those gold-flecked violet eyes now somehow easier to read than before. Whatever this is, it's bigger than both of us now, and... She hesitated, then continued with newfound certainty. I can feel it too, Ilior. Something is happening to me when we touch. I need answers as much as you do. The shuttle systems hummed to life as Maya initiated the launch sequence. Her diplomatic credentials temporarily overrode the lockdown protocols, but she knew it wouldn't last. The small craft slipped from the hangar bay just as security forces burst in behind them. 6 Viridian vessels approaching Harmony Station, the shuttle's AI announced dispassionately. Warning, intercept course detected. Maya engaged the shuttle's stealth systems, designed for observing sensitive ecosystems without disruption, now repurposed for their escape. We need to reach the asteroid belt. The mineral content will help mask our signature. Ilior had been unusually quiet, seated in the co-pilot's chair. Maya glanced over to find the Viridian's eyes closed, skin glowing with unprecedented intensity. Ilior's. I can sense them, came the whispered response. Their minds, their intentions. Maya, this is extraordinary. The abilities are evolving faster than I can comprehend. Can you tell what they're planning? Ilior's eyes opened, now blazing with golden light. They're scanning for us, but they're also frightened. The transformation has spread further than we knew. Nearly 30 Viridians on our homeworld have begun showing signs after merely viewing recordings of me after the change began. Maya programmed a complex trajectory toward the asteroid belt, trying to process this information. It's becoming exponential. Yes, and the Preservation Authority fears what will happen if it can't be contained. Ilior suddenly stiffened. Maya, they're not just pursuing us. They've deployed containment teams to Earth as well. What? Why? They believe human biochemistry may be the catalyst. They want samples, test subjects. The implication hung between them as the shuttle accelerated toward the relative safety of the asteroid field. Maya's mind raced through possibilities, each more alarming than the last. We need to warn Earth. Any transmission will reveal our position, Ilior cautioned. Then we need allies. Maya adjusted their course subtly. There's a research outpost in the belt. Officially, it studies asteroid composition. Unofficially, it's a meeting place for humans and non-humans working outside governmental oversight. You know of such places? Ilior seemed surprised. Maya gave a grim smile. I'm a diplomat, Ilior. My job is to know where the real conversations happen. She reached over and briefly touched the Viridian's hand. The now familiar surge of connection flowed between them, stronger than before. Besides, I'm not the only human who's wondered what Earth governments aren't telling us about interspecies contact. The journey to the asteroid belt took 11 tense hours. Twice they had to power down completely as Viridian vessels passed nearby. During these quiet periods, Maya observed with fascination as Ilior experimented with the emerging abilities, manipulating small objects without touching them, sensing energy patterns through the shuttle's hull, even briefly projecting images directly into Maya's mind. With each demonstration, the connection between them deepened. Maya began experiencing flashes of insight that weren't her own, emotional resonances that carried distinct traces of Ilior's consciousness. More concerning, she noticed faint luminescent patterns occasionally appearing beneath her own skin, fading quickly but undeniably present. It's affecting me too, she finally acknowledged as they approached the hidden outpost coordinates. Ilior studied her with those increasingly perceptive eyes. Yes, though differently than it affects my kind, the connection between us appears to be facilitating some form of integration. Is that why the Preservation Authority is so afraid? They think humans and Viridians might all develop these abilities. I believe they fear something far more profound, Ilior said softly. Not just abilities, but true connection between our species, the kind that would make separation impossible. Before Maya could process this, the outpost came into view, a collection of modules attached to a hollowed-out asteroid, barely distinguishable from the surrounding rock except for faint energy signatures. As Maya initiated docking procedures, a transmission broke through their communication silence. Unidentified shuttle, you are carrying a biological anomaly of extreme interest. State your intentions. The voice wasn't human or Viridian. Maya exchanged glances with Ilior, who nodded slightly. This is Ambassador Maya Thorne and Ambassador Ilior. We seek sanctuary and information. A long pause followed before the voice returned. Sanctuary requires something in exchange, ambassadors. What do you offer? Ilior leaned forward. The truth about Viridian history and biology that has been suppressed for millennia, and the Viridian hesitated, then continued. Evidence of what happens when our species truly connect. Another pause, longer this time. Finally, docking authorized. Be advised that any hostile action will result in immediate termination. We find most species are more honest when they understand the consequences of deception. As the shuttle locked into the docking mechanism, Maya turned to Ilior. Are you sure about this? We don't know who or what awaits us there. Ilior's skin pulsed with what Maya now recognized as determination. We've started something that cannot be undone, Maya. Our only path is forward. When the airlock opened, they were greeted by a sight neither expected. A small delegation consisting of 2 humans, one Viridian whose skin already showed faint signs of transformation, and a tall, insectoid being Maya had never encountered before. Ambassadors, the insectoid being clicked in surprisingly clear standard. Welcome to the Nexus. I am Coordinator TZ Cake. It seems you've initiated quite the evolutionary crisis. Maya stepped forward, diplomat to the end. We prefer to think of it as an evolutionary opportunity. Interesting perspective, TZ Cake responded, compound eyes reflecting the glow from Ilior's skin. Let's see if you still believe that after you learn what our archives contain about the last time Viridians possessed these abilities. The Viridian in their welcoming party stepped forward, skin patterns subtly resonating with Ilior's. The suppression of our true nature wasn't an accident, Ambassador Ilior. It was a choice made after nearly destroying worlds beyond our own. The Viridian bowed slightly. I am Nemer, historian of the preserved truth, and I believe it's time you both understood exactly what your kiss has awakened. The Nexus archives were unlike anything Maya had ever seen. A vast chamber where data storage systems from a dozen different species interfaced in apparent harmony. Holographic displays activated as they moved through the space, responding to both verbal commands and, surprisingly, to the fluctuating patterns beneath Ilior's skin. Your transformation interfaces naturally with our systems, Nemer explained, leading them deeper into the archive. Another indication that what you're experiencing isn't new, but rather a return to what once was. Coordinator TZ Cake moved with surprising grace for a being nearly 8 feet tall with an exoskeletal structure. The Nexus exists to preserve knowledge that various governments find inconvenient. We have extensive records of Viridian history that differ significantly from your official archives. How is that possible? Ilior questioned. Our historical documentation is meticulous. Meticulous, yes. Complete? No. Nemer gestured toward a central platform. What we're about to show you was compiled from archaeological evidence, preserved personal accounts, and data recovered from abandoned colonies. The platform illuminated as they gathered around it. 3-dimensional images formed in the air, renderings of Viridians with fully activated luminescent patterns far more complex than Ilior's current state. They manipulated energy fields, communicated without speaking, and transformed their environments through what appeared to be thought alone. Your ancestors were not merely gifted, Ambassador Ilior, TZ Kate clicked. They were approaching a form of existence beyond conventional physical limitations. Maya studied the images with growing amazement. They were evolving beyond their physical forms. Yes, Nemer confirmed, and they were not alone in this journey. The display shifted to show Viridians interacting with other species, including what appeared to be ancient humans. Maya gasped. That's impossible. Humans didn't have spaceflight capability when your recorded history begins, TZ Cake interrupted. But there are gaps in Earth's archaeological record as well, convenient gaps that align with periods of Viridian visitation. Ilior moved closer to the display, skin pulsing with agitation. You're suggesting my ancestors visited Earth, that there was contact between our species before. Not just contact, Nemr said softly. Connection, much like what you two are experiencing now. The display shifted again, showing paired beings, Viridian and human, with energy patterns flowing between them, creating elaborate resonance fields. The sundering wasn't simply a civil war, Nemr continued. It was a deliberate intervention by those who feared what this connection was creating, a new form of consciousness that transcended individual species. Maya felt a chill despite the comfortable temperature. They stopped it. How? TZ Cake manipulated the controls, and the display showed a devastating sequence of events. Brilliant light followed by planets in darkness, civilizations crumbling, and finally, Viridians undergoing some kind of medical procedure that eliminated their luminescent patterns entirely. The genetic suppression protocol, Nemr explained. A massive undertaking that rewrote the DNA of every surviving Viridian, deactivating the sequences that allowed for these abilities. Meanwhile, on Earth, similar measures were taken, though more crude. Selective breeding programs, elimination of certain bloodlines, and eventually the engineering of cultural taboos against interspecies contact. But why, Maya pressed? What were they so afraid of? Transcendence, came Ilior's whispered response. The Viridian's eyes were fixed on the final images in the sequence, paired beings whose energy patterns had merged so completely that they formed something new, something neither entirely Viridian nor human. They feared we would evolve beyond their control. Precisely, TZ Cake confirmed. Power structures rarely survive when consciousness evolves. Your governments, both human and Viridian, are built on maintaining separation, limitation, and predictability. Maya moved closer to Ilior, drawn by an impulse she couldn't explain. When their hands touched, the now familiar connection flowed between them, stronger than before. To her shock, faint luminescent patterns appeared on her own skin, no longer fading immediately but persisting for several seconds. Nemr observed this with keen interest. It's happening faster with you than in the historical records. The genetic memory is strong in both of you. The Preservation Authority, Ilior said suddenly. They know all of this, don't they? That's why they're so determined to capture us. They are the direct organizational descendants of those who implemented the original suppression, Nemr confirmed. Their entire purpose is preventing what you two have accidentally initiated. Maya's diplomatic mind raced ahead. Then the peace negotiations. Were never meant to succeed beyond a certain point, TZ Cake finished for her. Limited cultural exchange, carefully monitored scientific cooperation, but nothing that would lead to intimate contact between your species. The revelation struck Maya like a physical blow. She dedicated months to negotiations that had apparently been designed to create the appearance of progress while preventing actual integration. Ilior sensed her distress, the connection between them now allowing for emotional awareness without physical contact. Maya, we couldn't have known. So what happens now? She asked, looking from Nemr to TZ Cake. The change is spreading among Viridians. It can't be contained forever. No, agreed Nemr. But the Preservation Authority will try. They'll isolate affected individuals, study them, and attempt to develop a new suppression protocol. And humans, Maya pressed. TZ Cake's compound eyes fixed on her. If they determine that human biochemistry is the catalyst, they may attempt more permanent solutions to prevent further contact. The implication hung in the air. Maya felt Ilior's hand tighten around hers. We need to warn both our governments, Maya insisted. The governments are part of the problem, TZ Cake countered. They have maintained this separation for millennia. Not everyone in power supports the status quo, Maya argued. There are those on Earth who genuinely want meaningful connection with other species. They just don't know what's being kept from them. A sudden commotion from the archive entrance interrupted their discussion. One of the human residents of the Nexus rushed in, expression grim. Preservation Authority vessels have located us. 6 ships, heavily armed, approaching from the outer belt. TZ Cake moved with surprising speed to a control panel. How did they find us so quickly? They must have followed our energy signature, Ilior realized. The activation patterns give off a unique radiation. I can feel it intensifying with each passing hour. Maya made a quick decision. We need to transmit what we've learned, send it to multiple locations, both on Earth and on the Veridian homeworld. If enough people learn the truth, they can't suppress it again. Nemr nodded in agreement. The archive contains everything, but transmission will take time, and once we begin, they'll detect the signals. Then we need to buy time, Maya said, turning to Ilior. The connection between them surged as their eyes met, and in that moment, an understanding passed between them that transcended words. Ilior nodded. The abilities are still developing, but perhaps together. Without further explanation, the Veridian pulled Maya close, pressing their foreheads together. The luminescence beneath Ilior's skin flared brilliantly, and Maya felt the patterns on her own skin respond in kind. Energy coursed between them, creating a resonance field visible to everyone in the archive. "Begin the transmission," Ilior said, voice layered with harmonics that seemed to vibrate through the very structure of the Nexus. "We'll shield you as long as we can." As Nemr and Tzk rushed to initiate the data transfer, Maya surrendered to the connection flowing between her and Ilior. Images, emotions, and knowledge passed between them in waves of increasing intensity. She felt herself simultaneously losing her individual identity and expanding into something greater, more comprehensive. "This is what they feared," she whispered against Ilior's skin. "Not the abilities themselves, but what happens when we truly connect." "Yes," Ilior responded, both aloud and directly into her mind. "Separation is ending, Maya, and whatever comes next, we face it together." The resonance field around them expanded, enveloping the entire archive chamber in a protective cocoon of energy, as the first shots from the Preservation Authority vessels struck the Nexus's outer defenses. The attack on the Nexus intensified as the Preservation Authority brought its full firepower to bear. Inside the archive chamber, Maya and Ilior remained locked in their profound connection, the resonance field around them pulsating with each impact against the station's failing shields. "Transmission at 63%, Nemr reported, fingers dancing across the control interfaces. "But their jamming technology is adapting to our frequency shifts." Tzk moved between defense stations, compound eyes reflecting the chaos of emergency lighting. "Outer hull integrity at 47%. We cannot withstand this assault much longer." Maya barely registered these dire reports. The connection with Ilior had deepened beyond anything she could have imagined, their consciousness flowing together in ways that transcended conventional understanding. Through their merged awareness, she could sense the Preservation Authority vessels surrounding the Nexus, could feel the determination and fear driving their attack. "They know what's happening," she communicated to Ilior without speaking. "They can sense the resonance field growing." "Yes," came Ilior's response within their shared consciousness. "And they fear it more than anything," but Maya looked deeper. Following Ilior's guidance, Maya extended her perception beyond the attacking vessels to the crews within them. To her surprise, she detected faint traces of luminescence beginning to manifest in several Veridians aboard the ships, the transformation spreading despite the Preservation Authority's efforts to contain it. "It's happening everywhere," she realized. "The mere knowledge of possibility is triggering the change." "The transmission," Ilior responded. "We need to complete it." With newfound purpose, they intensified their connection, channeling energy into a more focused configuration. The resonance field contracted around them, becoming denser, more coherent. Maya felt an extraordinary sensation as her consciousness expanded further, touching minds beyond the Nexus. First nearby Veridians aboard the attacking vessels, then outward, connecting with awakening minds throughout the solar system. "Ambassador Thorne," Tzk's urgent voice barely penetrated their shared state. "Harmony Station has detected the attack. Earth vessels are approaching, weapons active." This new development rippled through their connection. If human and Veridian forces engaged in direct conflict, the fragile progress toward peace would shatter completely. "We need to stop this," Maya communicated to Ilior. "Not just protect the Nexus, stop the escalation before it becomes war." Ilior's consciousness entwined with hers in agreement. Together, they pushed their awareness further, seeking other awakened Veridians who might help amplify their efforts. To Maya's astonishment, they found dozens, then hundreds, some fully manifesting luminescent patterns, others just beginning the transformation. Each mind they touched became part of an expanding network of consciousness. Transmission at 87%, Nemr announced. But Earth vessels will be in firing range of Viridian ships in approximately 9 minutes. Maya and Elior shared a single thought. It wasn't enough time. Then, from within their merged consciousness, a new possibility emerged, not from either of them individually, but from the connection itself, as if their combined awareness had developed its own creative intelligence. We need to show them, they thought simultaneously. Breaking their physical contact, but maintaining their mental connection, Maya and Elior moved to the central platform of the archive. The luminescent patterns on both their skins now pulsed in perfect synchronization. Can you broadcast a visual feed from this chamber to all vessels in the area? Maya asked TZ-Cake. The coordinator's mandibles clicked in affirmation. Yes, but it would reveal our exact position and accelerate the attack. Do it, Elior said with quiet certainty, and ensure it transmits to Harmony Station as well. As TZ-Cake established the connection, Maya and Elior stood side by side on the platform, hands clasped, their luminescence creating cascading patterns of light throughout the chamber. When the transmission indicator showed active status, Maya spoke with clear diplomatic precision. To all Earth and Viridian forces, I am Ambassador Maya Thorne. What you are witnessing is not a threat, but a revelation. For millennia, our species have been kept artificially separated by those who feared what we might become together. Elior continued seamlessly. The Preservation Authority has maintained genetic suppression of abilities that once defined my people, abilities that emerge when our species truly connect. Together, they raised their joined hands, allowing the resonance field to manifest visibly around them. The luminescent patterns flowed between their bodies, creating intricate designs in the space between them. This is what has been hidden from us all, they said in unison, their voices harmonizing in a way that sent shivers through everyone who heard it. Not just extraordinary abilities, but the potential for connection that transcends the boundaries we've accepted as fixed and natural. Through their expanded awareness, they felt the impact of their demonstration, shock, disbelief, and wonder rippling through the minds of those watching. On several Preservation Authority vessels, more Viridians began manifesting luminescent patterns, the transformation accelerating as they witnessed what was possible. The attack has paused, Nemr reported quietly. Both Earth and Viridian vessels are holding position. Maya and Elior pressed their advantage, intensifying the visible manifestation of their connection. The resonance field expanded once more, this time deliberately extending tendrils of energy toward the viewing systems, creating an effect that allowed watchers to feel a fraction of what they were experiencing. We stand at a threshold, Maya continued. For the first time in thousands of years, we have the opportunity to remember what we once knew, that evolution doesn't end with separation but continues through connection. The transmission is complete, TZ-Cake announced. The data has been successfully distributed to all designated recipients. This news bolstered their confidence. Throughout the solar system and beyond, the suppressed history was now becoming accessible. The truth about both species past and the artificial limitations imposed upon them. Elior addressed the Preservation Authority directly. Your mission has been based on fear, fear of what we might become if allowed to evolve naturally. That fear has shaped both our civilizations for too long. Through their connection, they sensed a shift in the commanding vessel, conflict among the leadership as more Viridians aboard began to transform. Simultaneously, they detected surprised fascination from the Earth vessels, whose crews had never witnessed anything like the energy patterns flowing between human and Viridian. Director Holloway is requesting direct communication, Nemr informed them. Maya nodded, and the familiar face of her former superior appeared on a secondary display. His expression registered shock as he took in Maya's changed appearance, the luminescent patterns now clearly visible beneath her skin. Ambassador Thorne, he began cautiously, what have you done to yourself? Not done, Director, she replied calmly. Remembered, the capacity for this connection exists within humans as well, dormant but present in our DNA, just as it was in the Viridians. The Veridian High Council is also requesting communication, TZ Cake added. When the Veridian Elder appeared on screen, Ilior addressed them with newfound authority. The time of suppression is ending. The transformation spreads with each passing hour. You must choose whether to fight a losing battle against our true nature or embrace the evolution that has begun. Through their expanded awareness, Maya and Ilior could sense the impact of their words, the ripple of awakening spreading further with each moment of exposure. On Harmony Station, several humans who had worked closely with Veridians were beginning to manifest faint luminescent responses of their own. "We propose an immediate cessation of hostilities," Maya stated formally, the diplomat in her finding the precise language needed, "and the establishment of a new council comprised of both transformed and untransformed representatives from all affected species." "You cannot possibly expect," the Preservation Authority commander began. "We expect nothing," Ilior interrupted. "We offer a choice: continue along the path of separation and limitation, or explore what we might become together." As they spoke, the resonance field around them stabilized into a self-sustaining pattern, no longer requiring their focused attention to maintain. Maya felt a profound shift in her consciousness, not a loss of identity, but an expansion of it, as if she now existed simultaneously as herself and as part of something greater. "The pattern is becoming self-replicating," Nemr observed with wonder, his own luminescence intensifying as he studied readings from around the solar system. "The transformation is accelerating exponentially wherever humans and Veridians have established meaningful contact." Director Holloway's expression reflected the calculation of a pragmatic leader facing an irreversible change. "Ambassador Thorne, are you certain this transformation is beneficial, not harmful?" Maya smiled, feeling Ilior's consciousness flow alongside her own as she answered. "Director, for the first time, I understand what peace between our species truly means. Not carefully negotiated separation, but genuine connection. The abilities are secondary to that understanding." The Veridian Elder spoke after a long silence. "The historical records being distributed. They confirm what some of us have long suspected about our past. If this is indeed a return to our original nature rather than a deviation from it." "It is," Ilior confirmed, "and it offers possibilities beyond what either of our species could achieve alone." Over the next several hours, a tentative truce emerged. The Preservation Authority, facing growing transformation among their own ranks, reluctantly withdrew their attack vessels. Earth representatives, fascinated by the implications of the genetic activation, proposed a research exchange that would study the phenomenon without attempting to suppress it. Inside the Nexus, Maya and Ilior finally allowed their visible connection to subside, though the mental link between them remained intact. They were exhausted, but filled with a profound sense of purpose that transcended their former duties as ambassadors. "What happens now?" Nemr asked as the immediate crisis passed. Maya looked at Ilior, their thoughts flowing seamlessly between them. "Now the real work begins. The transformation will continue to spread, but understanding it, learning to navigate the connection without losing individuality, that will take guidance." "You've become the first of something new," TZ Cake observed. "Neither fully human nor Veridian, but something that encompasses both and